proudest day, and the proudest time, and the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, Season 3, Episode 36. So, Connor, we're going to talk rallying once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Our favourite time of the week, and a few things to catch up on as well.
Well, that's for sure, yeah. So, I got the opportunity to speak to Jimmy and Hollie McRae, and like to say that Jimmy is a hero growing up is an understatement. That was an absolute pleasure. Then you spoke to Rich Millener, getting all the latest goings on in M Sport, and there's some very exciting news there too. And then from the Ulster Rally, it was on last weekend. We haven't got a chance to catch up with maybe the main contenders yet, but we spoke to Philip White, who won the junior section, and we get his thoughts on his rallying career to date. And then finally, Kevin O'Driscoll joins us, and he's going to give us sort of his thoughts on where he can, where the Tarmac Championship is going to shake itself out at in the Cork 20 in a few weeks' time. But what can we say? Jimmy McRae, legend.
Oh, listen, he's beyond legend status, as we've often said, rallying royalty, and a man who, there's probably as much affection for Jimmy in Ireland as there is in his home country of Scotland.
More. Without a doubt. He says that himself during the interview, no matter when he lands in Ireland, or Belfast, Dublin, he gets off the plane, he says he won't be out of the airport before somebody will say to him, oh, what are you doing over here, Jimmy? And he can walk about at home and nobody recognises him, so. But and then Hollie as well. Hollie is really making him work for herself. She is going to be something really major in the media side of things.
Yeah, look, she's taken that whole PR media, social media piece and really, really shaking it up, and is doing some magical stuff. And, we've seen in a very short period of time, what she's been doing on the ERC and the BRC, as well as doing sort of individual promotional stuff for some of the rally drivers as well.
Yeah, definitely a bright future ahead. But no point in us telling all about it. Let's hear from the couple themselves, Jimmy and Hollie. So an absolute honour for me now to have a chat with Jimmy and Hollie McRae. You are both very welcome along. Jimmy, the recent Grampian Rally, you were back behind the wheel, celebrating your 50th anniversary in the sport. Does it even seem like 50 years?
No, it's unbelievable when you think about it. It's and the older you get, the quicker it goes as well. That's the problem. When you look back and you think, how could it be 50 years? But I'm afraid it's 50 years.
And those 50 years have been so successful, but to get the opportunity, in your 80th year to compete, how did the Grampian come together?
It's always been in my mind that I would quite like to do another event, and obviously 50th anniversary was the sort of year to pick. And it was really Ali Shaw who started to put it all together. Ali was the guy that has the truck with all the McCraes on it. He's a very organising man, and he said, "Oh no, we can sort it out." And I have a Vauxhall Magnum of my own, and but I don't have the spares and that to run it. He says, "Oh, I know somebody that would hire you a Mark 1 Escort, and it's a good Escort." And so that's how it all started. Basically, thanks to Ali Shaw, it was all sort of put together, and I wanted to do it in the Mark 1 Escort because although I did the first two rallies in a Mark 1 Cortina, after the third rally, it was a twin cam Escort, Mark 1 twin cam Escort, and well, that was the car that sort of got me noticed, and it went from there.
Yeah, that was the one that brought you to attention, and then very suddenly, then you're in, and with SMT, you progressed into the Magnums and Chevettes, and the world was your oyster then, really.
Well, I always once I did a year and a bit with the Mark 1 Escort, and I thought I need to get something else. And everybody else had Escorts, and I thought I'm going to try something different, and maybe get noticed a bit. No, get a stepping stone. And it was the right decision, because I got in touch with SMT, with big Vauxhall dealers in Scotland, and I got a bit of help from them to buy my own Magnum and start from there. And well, within 2.5 years of starting rallying, I had a not a paid job, but not a paid drive, but I had all expenses paid by between SMT and dealer team Vauxhall. So I think it was the right decision at the time. I think if I'd stuck with Ford, you might have got. I don't think I would have got to the not paying for it myself as quick as I did.
Yeah, because like those days, yes, Ford were very supportive of young drivers, but there were so many young drivers coming through. It was very important to try and make yourself different from everybody else.
That was the reason. That was what was behind it. I thought if I rally something different, and I can be at the top of the running at the top, then I'm going to get more of a chance to get sponsorship or get a drive, and that was exactly what happened.
And like that Magnum, then just as you say, like it got suddenly the Magnum become a Chevette, a
Yeah.
HS Chevette, which become a HSR Chevette, and you made the trip to Ireland then for the first time then as well.
Yeah, originally back then, when we started doing the sort of international events, the Circuit of Ireland was part of the British Championship, and the Manx. And I always say that the Vauxhall was a better tarmac car than gravel car for me anyway, and that's why it became so popular in Ireland. And well, went on and did well. I was Irish Championship. I won it twice with a Chevette. Uh, so again, the perfect move basically, and it really all came about when I was running my own Magnum. I wanted to get some sponsorship from them to do the RAC rally at the end of the year. But they come along and said, "Oh, the budget was all finished, and you couldn't do it." So, and I couldn't get the sponsorship to do it. But they said, go down and do what was the Border Counties rally? It was the Border Counties rally. It's where everybody came. All the works guys came there to do that rally as a practice ground for the RAC. Well, I went down with my own Magnum, and I beat both the DTV cars. I finished, I think, seventh or eighth overall, and they were behind me. So the new boss came and said, "I think you better come and see me next week." So that's how it all happened. Yeah.
And it was just being in the right place at the right time, I suppose, is the way of putting it.
Right place at the right time, and maybe if I had got the sponsorship to do the RAC and was retired early on or something, that would it might never have happened so quick as it did. But that's how the drive came about with Dealer Team Vauxhall.
Yeah, and coming to Ireland in 1980 and won the championship, was that about getting you seat time? Was that about getting familiar with the team, or what was the rationale behind that?
It was basically, I think, if I can remember correctly, we did a rally before the Circuit of Ireland. Um,
Galway possibly would have been.
was it the Galway? Was it Galway? It might have been actually. It was just as basically a shakedown, for the Circuit of Ireland, and I think I finished second. I think maybe Billy Coleman might have won it, and I was second. Anyway. I put in a good show, and for basically it was the second time I had driven the Group 4 car as well. I had been in the Magnum before that, and that Circuit of Ireland. Well, it was quite a learning curve, because it said to me, that they would put an Irish co-driver in beside me, and for the circuit
Oh,
as
Terry
well.
Hardiman.
Terry Harriman, Terry.
Of course.
Tell you a story about Terry. They put Terry in, and basically just because he'd done the circuit a few times. It's not that he knew all the stages or anything like that, but he was just a professional co-driver, basically. But he said to me, I think it was about the second or third stage in the rally up round about Northern Ireland. He said, "Now I know a fair bit of this stage." He said, "So I'll keep you right here." So I thought, oh, here, first sitting beside an Irish co-driver, tell me where I can go fast and where I can't go fast. I wasn't sure, but anyway, the first 2 or 3 miles of the stage, I thought he was spot on. He wasn't reading the road; he was just saying, "It's all good here. It's all good. Go, keep going. It's good. It's good. Good." Then it'll tighten up. But he told me then, when we come to this junction and turn left, he says it's uphill. He says it's absolutely flat out. He says it's all very narrow, but he says it's flat out till you get to the farm. Then you brake for a T-junction right. Well, by this time I believed every word they said. So flat out to this farm. Then I saw the T-junction. It was about 50 yards. Well, it was less than 50 yards from me. I thought, I'm not going to stop. But I managed. I got the thing round the corner. Just good driving, basically. I got to the end of the stage and I said to Terry, I said, "Jesus Christ, Terry," I said, "flat out to the farm." I said, "That we were lucky to make that corner." He said, Sure, Jimmy, I've never arrived at that farm in quick in my life." He says, "It must have been good because we were first we won that stage."
It worked.
Never arrived there as quick in my life.
There was a compliment in there somewhere.
And we actually led the circuit right up to, I think, about the third last stage. Then a valve seat broke up in the car, in the engine, and we had 3 cylinders for the last 3 stages. But then Russell actually got past us in the last 3 stages. So it could have been the first time win if it hadn't been for that.
Yeah. And you went on then to win the circuit 7 times, and your name will be forever associated with the Circuit Ireland. You had an affinity with the circuit, and Ireland has still this affinity to you and the whole McRae family.
Aye, no, I'm actually better known in Ireland than I'm in Lanark here.
What do you put that down to? Was it your flamboyant driving style? Was it just the way that you come over here and just get on with things? You didn't make yourself out to be a big star. You just come and enjoyed the crack.
I think I come and enjoyed the crack and enjoyed the rallies and it was successful. So no, it's I quite often get off a plane in Belfast and somebody will know me. "Oh, what are you doing here? What are you here for, Jimmy?"
And it obviously was very special then because, from Colin and Ulster started to cut their teeth. You had them over here doing events like Colin. One of the first events he done was an auto test here in Northern Ireland, and then they both competed in various events. But Donegal was obviously a cutting ground for Ulster, and then Colin come back to do it in later years as well.
That's right. No, it's a favourite. Well, it's a favourite rallying country for the McCraes.
Yes, and then only a couple of years ago for the 50th anniversary, you were back over, but you're bringing the next generation of McCraes. Max was over then as well.
Yes, Max is he would like to do it again. I tried to put a deal together to get him to do it this year, but there was many other things going on that. And we didn't manage, but I think Max is quite desperate to get back to Ireland.
And Hollie, we better bring you in here because I could go down memory lane here for 2 hours. To hear the stories about your grandfather. I'm sure every event you go to between the legend that is your father, your grandfather, your uncle. The stories just must, everywhere you go, there just must be stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favourite things about getting more involved in rallying now is every event that I go to, whether it's a competitor, whether it's someone from the media, a spectator, there's always at least someone that's got a story to tell me that I've never heard before. Whether it's about my dad, about Gramps, even Max as well. It's like piecing together this giant McRae jigsaw. And a lot of these stories I would never have gotten the chance to hear. So it's definitely special.
Yeah, and like you've now sampled Ireland, you were in Donegal this year too, and like you got a flavour of what what the McRae name means to the people of Ireland, and like to get that opportunity to to sit in the metro to hear the stories, that had to been a very special weekend for you.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. It was a rally that I've heard a lot about over the years, and I knew it was definitely one that I'd love to attend at some point. And it just sort of all fell into place quite last minute that I was able to go up. And it totally lived up to the expectation. It was just incredible. The scenery, the fans, the rallying, all of the different cars that were there were brilliant. And I was spending a lot of time just hopping from stage to stage, doing some social media filming for Matt Edwards, who I was doing some work with. So I got to see quite a lot of the rally. Not a lot of the cars going past, mind you. I think Matt was running second on the road. So I arrived, saw two cars. I was like, right, next one, go, go, go. But the whole atmosphere was just amazing. And yeah, just the people you get to speak to just totally makes the rallying experience.
And then, this year, well, the last couple of years, you've made the move in now to the media side of things, and this year you're the face of the BRC coverage. Like that must be a huge honour for you as well.
Yeah, it's been great. I feel like everything's just sort of fallen into place over the last couple of years. It was never my intention about 3, 4 years ago for this to become a full-time job of mine, and it just sort of naturally progressed in this direction, and I'm totally loving it. Like every opportunity that comes my way is slightly different from the one before. It is nice for me to get involved in rallying in a way that suits me. I feel as though I sort of grew up knowing that I was never going to be the next world champion, but I didn't quite know how else to get involved. And in the last couple of years, I've sort of found my own way back into motorsport, and it's been incredible. And the opportunity to work with the BRC this year with ITV has been great. It was another thing that just sort of came out of the blue. I was actually in Japan at the time that I got the email about it, and I was like, oh, this could be a great reason to go home. And it's been amazing just getting to know all of the BRC drivers and getting to see parts of the country I've never been to before has been amazing. And then obviously the latest event, getting to interview my cousin and my Gramps was just brilliant.
Yeah, well, that had to be surreal, like, watching the red Mark 1 roll up to a stage end, sticking in the microphone and going, hello.
It was incredible. I put it on my Instagram story not long after the weekend, and I was like, this has to be one of my rallying highlights so far, getting to stage end interview my own Gramps. I was like, not many people can say they've done that.
But like, that's the lovely thing about rallying. And like, it doesn't matter whether you're 18 or 80. There's a place, there's a category, there's a class, there's a whatever, there's a way of getting involved.
Yeah, no, definitely. Actually, when I go to rallies now, she's better known than I am, which is not good for me. That means I'm in my way out.
They're asking you, are you Hollie's grandfather? But like that weekend was very special for the whole McRae family. Like as you say, Hollie, how often will it be there's an opportunity, for such a generational thing to happen? Like, that's a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, it was very, very special. And I think the ITV TV crew were very keen on making a very big deal of the fact that we had sort of rallying across 3 generations there. And I'm so glad that they saw that side of it as well, because it meant that we could sort of have some great conversations. I know for Max, it was really special being on the same entry list as his grandfather for the first time. So no, the whole weekend was just amazing. And the weather was great. The rallying was great. The scenery was great. It was just, I think it was my favourite BRC round so far, and it'll take a lot to top it.
For sure. And like, Jimmy, like, you stepped aside from top line driving in the early 90s to allow Colin and Alistair to develop, and you have Max now coming along. Like, how proud are you of this next generation coming in?
Oh, very, very proud actually. But I've sat beside Max when he was 10-year-old driving a car, and an old car that they had over in Australia. And I knew from then, I thought, this boy's got a bit of talent. It's just quite natural. Then I sat beside him in a Mitsubishi. One year I was back there, I was only 13 at the time, I think. And then, no, I thought, no, he's definitely got it. Then he's obviously had all the experience of karting as well. No, he's won the go-kart championship 3 or 4 times in Australia. I tried to, I said, there's maybe a better opportunity for you driving if you stick to tarmac, you stick to racing. No, I'm going rallying. He was very good. He was very good on the race circuit as well. So, no, I think the boys got a fair bit of talent about him. I think we'll see a bit more of him.
Yeah, for sure. Because he's tackling the ERC, the junior category there, as well as the BRC, and he's shining everywhere he goes. The stage times, every rally, there's 2 or 3 real good stage times, and he's still only cutting his teeth at this.
Aye, well, that's basically before the start of the rally at the weekend there. I said to him, just remember, don't get too disappointed, because these guys, especially William Crichton, I mean, William's in the car every bloody weekend, and the other guys around him are all very experienced, got loads of years behind them, and I said, just don't get too upset if you're not right in the pace. But I was there or thereabout, and a third fastest time in one of the stages, and he would have had a good time in, I think, the second last one. But he had, well, it wasn't his fault. He had a bit of a spin and stop, but lost 20, 30, 40 seconds. But no, he's good. We just need to try and get him out a wee bit oftener now.
That's for sure. And for Hollie, from you, we spoke to Hollie about interviewing you. What was it like for you being interviewed by her?
It's a pleasure. Got to the end of the longest stage, which at the weekend was a 10.9 mile or something. And I got to the end of that, and through the flying finish, I thought, oh, I must have had a smile from ear to ear. I really enjoyed that stage. And who was at the stock control? Interviewed by my granddaughter.
And they're matching the smile like.
So that probably answers my next question. Do you still get the same buzz of being sitting behind the seat of a rally car? I
did that, yes. On the first 2 stages on the Friday night, with a tiring day with the recce, then up at 6 o'clock the Thursday morning to go up there to do the PRs thing and get a run in the car. Then we did the recce, then straight into the 2 stages. And I think I was a bit knackered actually. And I thought, oh, I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing or not. But when Saturday morning came, then that was through the first stage. I thought, oh, I think we're all right here.
And I suppose
just road driver Gail White I had with me. She's part of the Colton S Car Club.
Oh yes.
And but she works for M Sport and then in the gearbox department. She was pretty new to it. It was her second ever rally on the forest. She'd done a lot of closed events, go driving and closed events, but second time in the forest. So the Friday night was a wee bit of a learning curve for us both.
But didn't she perform really, really well? As you say, only her second ever event, and at such a level, and come away from the weekend, and she's going to have a story that's going to last her a lifetime.
Aye, no, she was chuffed to bits, aye.
For sure. And then, I suppose we should touch on something. The last time somebody won the Irish title and the British title together was Jimmy McRae in 1981. With another guy going for it now this year, Keith Cronin, and he's leading the Irish and he's in the battle for the British one. Is it hard to believe that almost 40 years later that your record of 5 British titles still stands?
Aye, well, it still stands, and I keep thinking, do I really want him to win the championship?
Not ready to give up the accolades yet.
Don't tell him. I think I've actually said to myself, no, just slow down a bit. Slow down.
So, Holly, do you think this was maybe like a prelude then for maybe next year? Maybe he's going for 6 titles, maybe.
I know he's not going to let that one slip.
But Jimmy, 5 titles. Whenever you think of how competitive rallying was, and you were really only at the top line for what 10, 12 years. When you think of it that way, 5 titles in that time, it's just remarkable.
Aye, and at that time, it wasn't just British drivers that were here. We had all World Championship, Barry Batten and Stig Blomqvist. They were all here doing the championship then as well. So it was a great time for the championship. It was a great time for me to win it. It's something that I'm very proud of.
For sure, because he didn't always have maybe the best car, because when some of those guys were coming, they had 4-wheel drive machinery. You're up against the Audis when you were still on rear-wheel drive and the Mantas and things like that there. But you always made the best of the equipment you had. You extracted the absolute maximum out of what you had.
Aye, no, that's true, and it's one thing I've said to Max as well, is that you might not have the best machinery, or you might have problems here and there. I said, but the secret to win championships and win events is to be there at the finish. Don't break the car in the 3rd stage or put it off in the 1st stage. So no, he must get fed up. You tell him.
And had you the opportunity now to drive one of the latest spec cars? What's your thoughts on these Rally 2 cars now?
I haven't really driven one, but I sat beside Max on the test before the rally, and I thought, bloody hell. It's a different breed of car altogether. The 4-wheel drive, the suspension travel. That's what I said to Max. I says, come and see the suspension travel in this Mark 1 Escort. That against that. But it was an eye-opener sitting beside him. I thought, oh.
Yeah, and if you were, 50 years younger, would you love an opportunity to go and, see what they're all about, all these cars, and you still think you would have something there to offer?
If what? Sorry, what?
If you could wind back the clock, do you still think that the talent that Jimmy McRae had could match these young guys?
Of course.
With your eyes shut.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter what area, and we've all got basically the same machinery. So, no. If I was 50 years younger, you never know.
And Holly, you said you had to find your own path in motorsport, and you're very happy where you're at. Did you ever consider going behind the wheel and giving it a go?
Oh, we tried. An old car when she was 14, 15.
Yeah.
In the fields round about Jervis Wood. But she tried. Did a bit, but you could see the real interest wasn't there.
Yeah, Gramps was quite keen, I think, for me to give it a go. And we'd go around the fields in this little, what was it, a Micra?
Micra, aye.
It was like a little Nissan Micra made up of about 50 Nissan Micra. I had like a blue wing, a silver wing, colours of red. And it was good fun. And I think I really enjoyed the opportunity, like spending time with you in the car. But I just don't quite have the bottle that it takes to send a car around a corner. I'm much more of a pens and pencils and painting sort of girl than I was a rally girl. And I do think as well, like, I just knew how important rallying was in our family, and I knew for my mum what rallying meant to her. And for me to turn around and say I wanted to get in a car, I think she might have had a heart attack. But if it was ever an idea that I had, I just parked it somewhere in the back of my brain and didn't pay too much attention to it. And I have to say, though, since getting back involved in rallying in the last couple of years, the interest is definitely like peaked a little bit more. And just being surrounded by it and hearing what the drivers go through, and there's definitely, I'm more interested now than what I've ever been. I went to Dirtfish 2 years ago and did one of their driving days, which was the first and only time until now that I've ever driven a rally car. And after the initial 10 minutes of, oh my goodness, what am I doing? This is terrifying. I did, something clicked and I was like, wait a second. I think I'm starting to understand what's happening here. And yeah, it was great. And if I could have stayed out at Dirtfish and done that for another like 3 weeks, I would have. But I came home and that opportunity hasn't quite reared its head again. But I wouldn't be adverse to it, that's for sure.
And like the job you have at stage end interviews, like there's no other sport gives you access like that. You're capturing that raw emotion that like, there's no filter with drivers when they pull up there. They haven't time to compose themselves. Like we've often said, you can't run onto a football pitch and speak to whoever scored a goal. You can't, as the Olympics, whoever's run the 100 meters, you can't get that instant reaction that you can get with rallying. That's a very special job there.
Yeah, it's extremely special and something that I hadn't done until the start of this year. And I knew that when we were talking about bringing together the ITV program, like that's where the action is. That's where you want to hear from drivers, because you don't want them having a 30-minute road section to media train themselves before you speak to them back at the service park. And I think the last 4 rounds, I've been very keen to get out to as many stage ends as I can. Sometimes it doesn't quite work with logistics and whatnot, but I am there at the producer quite often being like, so see how there's a little bit of a gap here. How about we reshuffle this? Because I could then go to stage 3. And it's something it's so special being able to sort of speak to drivers the moment after they've just finished their stage. And from doing a couple with the ITV crews, and I've now had the chance to do stage end interviews twice in the European Championship, which was a whole other kettle of fish as well. And it's just getting these experiences, and for me, like just gaining the opportunity to be able to improve that skill has been really important. And I hope to do many more of them going forward.
And Jimmy, like you've come from the era of like Brian Patterson at the end of the stage with his coat and his pencil and his notepad to now a microphone and that being broadcast around the world within seconds. Like this whole social media side of things, it's fascinating the way it can bring 1 wee corner of Scotland, suddenly people in America, Australia, everywhere in the world can watch that.
I know it's quite amazing, really. When you think back to when I started rallying, to get results, I mean, you had either to be right there on the event, or you wouldn't get them until the following week. Motorsport News or something like that. Whereas now, I mean, you're getting the stage times as the cars finish the stage, and you can also get them through the stage where the split times. It's just unbelievable now what you can get done.
And like from your point, if you go out and watch a rally now, do you see? Is there a wee part of you going, oh, if you took a different line there, or is it just in awe now of the speeds that they can carry?
No. There's always the I can always pass a remark. He didn't get that right. Well, that was good. That's the best way to do it. When went over and did the European event with Hollie, we went to a few stages where Max was doing, and you can see, or he gets braking a bit too early or too late or whatever. Still pass a comment.
It was great. Like last year, it was the Barham rally that we went to in Zlin, and we went out to a couple of stages. Obviously, I'm there with my phone, my camera, getting ready to get shots of Max going past. But Gramps is there, watch on, phone ready with the stopwatch. Every single car that goes past, like, oh, he's 0.3 down on that one. Oh, he's not as fast.
So it never leaves you, Jimmy.
No, it does not. No, and I still enjoy it. A lot of drivers say, "Oh, they wouldn't go and watch a stage," or no, wouldn't be interested. But no, I'm still interested to see the drivers and how they do it and what they're doing basically. And try and keep a watch on the watch. Keep an eye on the watch to see whether they're up or down. Or no, still do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you both very much for taking the time to join us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a dream come true for me. So thank you both very much.
Thank you
No
for having
bother.
us.
Thank you. Cheers. All the best.
I think it's fairly evident that I was a bit fanboy in there. That was a huge thing for me there. I really enjoyed that, I have to say. So once again, thanks then to Jimmy and Hollie. And Connor, you get a chance to speak to Rich Millener. Like, how privileged are we to get the opportunity to speak to like one of the team principals of 3 World Rally car teams? It just blows my mind. This podcast, we keep saying it, just blowing our minds. Like, and what a privilege we have had.
Oh, look, it's an absolute privilege. It genuinely is. And, it's been a few months since we caught up with Rich. And, I really do appreciate the fact that he took time out to have a chat and to catch up. And as you'll hear, like, I tried to cover as many subjects as possible with him. But one of the things we did chat about was there's a 6-part documentary series out this Thursday on the WRC YouTube channel. I think it airs at 6 p.m. And it's a behind the scenes in M Sport. And we were very privileged to have the opportunity actually to see an advanced screening of the first episode, Kevin. And it really does give you a huge insight into, the behind the scenes of the team, some of the personalities in the team. Even, Rich seems to have been very open, and his home life is on show there. And, kind of the whole team, they're such a small outfit and they're juggling so much.
Yeah, because we just think that this massive team, they're nearly devoid of personality. But this really, like this, the episode we've seen, the personalities, the wee stories behind the story, and like personally, I love all that. And to see it in reality, I just think it blows my mind. I just think it's such a. I think this is going to be a huge success. We've seen what Formula One, the documentary they done, the behind the scenes thing, the way it propelled it to a whole new level. I think this could be a game changer for them.
Absolutely. I think it will be. Like, you mentioned Drive to Survive there on Netflix, and, it brought so many people to the sport of F1 who were hooked on the personalities that, behind the scenes in the sports that you don't get to see when obviously they're competing in the Formula One cars. And it's something similar with this, and again, I was quite pleased because and M Sport's second driver there, Gregor Munster, we don't really know him because, he's still learning the trade. It's only his first season in Rally 1. He's, coming in 7th, 8th, 9th place, amongst the other Rally 1 cars. So he's not getting that much airtime on Rally TV. So we don't get, we haven't gotten to know him. We're Adrian Formeau, we're fairly familiar with now at this stage. So it's been lovely to actually see the first episode and start to see some of Gregor's personality coming through and getting to understand who he is.
That's for sure, yeah. So no, I think without further ado, let's hear from Rich.
Rich, Ulster Rally at the weekend, a win in the Fiesta for Keith Cronin, back-to-back wins in the Ulster. Have to be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken before. The Irish Championship is something that's very close to us, and we want to be showing the car still. So to do back-to-back victories is always special. It was a bit of a shame for Matt that he didn't get to have the fight all weekend. But I saw the video yesterday. A very small little excursion into a verge ended the rally for him. But another fantastic result from Keith, and I think we can be very happy on that. And we know that the car's got a very good Irish tarmac setup, which we worked hard on last year, and obviously is still proving itself. So that's the main goal of what we're trying to achieve with the Fiesta, and it's still competitive, still working. So another great result for Keith, and congratulations to him and Mikey, and really nice to watch and see happening.
And the strength of the Fiesta in the Irish Tar, it's been very, very strong this year. Like there's 6 rounds between Matt and Keith. 4 of them have been won by the Fiesta. Like that isn't a very, very strong performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no denying we definitely did a lot of hard work on it last year to get a setup that worked well. Probably more than any other manufacturer spent dedicated on roads like Ireland, but the conditions and the roads that we see in Ireland actually help in numerous places around the world. So there's a lot of benefits from doing both there. But I think we found a very good setup, and especially for wet, slippery conditions as well, which you tend to see a lot over in UK Ireland. And that's where we know the car's really competitive in those dirty kind of conditions as well. So it's great to see it, just performing well. And it's hard because the car still has this image of being an older car, because it has been around for a while, and Fiesta is sadly no longer produced by Ford, but doesn't mean that our production and our support for the car has stopped in any way. And getting these results is a perfect way to show that. So we're just really happy with the performances that Keith's managed to make in Ireland this year, and Matt, and look forward to seeing hopefully a couple more.
And also the reason we had the Barham Czech rally, and John Armstrong was out, and probably in roads maybe the from a European context in the continent, the closest to what you'd maybe find in Ireland. Again, unfortunately, John forced to retire day one with double puncture, but really bounced back on day two with 6 top 10 stage times.
Yeah, I mean, I think I haven't seen the video of the small off yet where he got 2 punctures, but obviously it's very disappointing for him to have that kind of thing. But we've seen it before, and I think when we're putting a little bit of pressure on John to try and perform well in the championship, we feel that he's capable of doing it. But there's a lot to learn when you go to that next level, that that international level. And we have to remember John last year was in Rally 3 car, which is a very different animal to a Rally 2 car. And there's a lot still to learn when you jump up a category. So I think although his results haven't been necessarily where he wanted them to be, and maybe we'd hope to be a little bit higher up, I think if you actually take a step back and look, some of his performances and his times are very competitive. And once the pressure was kind of off from this rally after the double puncture, he relaxed and got into it and showed what he's capable of. But every event he's going to is learning again, really, with the Rally 2 car. So it's not easy. It takes time, and we've got to appreciate that. But to see some times against the locals, especially in places like Barham, where you have a lot of Czech nationals and Czech locals, who know the roads really, really well. And it was a difficult rally. Kopecky didn't win for once, so there was a lot going on. So I think John did a fantastic job despite everything that was going on.
But that look, it was a tricky event. We thought, Hayden, struggling at times as well, and it just didn't go to plan, I think, for anybody on that event.
No, and I mean, there's a lot of people doing single events in the ERC this year, which kind of mixes and muddles the championship position a little bit. John has been consistent, to be fair to him, and that's one of the things we asked of him. So, asking a driver to be consistent but also perform well is an easy thing to say and a very difficult thing to do. I think he's had a lot to deal with and juggle with, but hopefully, let's see what he can do in Ceredigion this weekend, next weekend. I think he has a good opportunity there as well. He knows these roads a little bit better, or these type of conditions. It's at home effectively, so you know your own country better than anyone else. So it's a good opportunity to show him and see where he is against the BRC pace, because I think there's 2 different categories there as well, in terms of international versus national. So that would be very interesting to watch. And I think there's still opportunities for him to showcase exactly what he's capable of this year.
And any change in plan for Ceredigion, or just the same? It's about building speed and pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of changed our approach a little bit. We're being a little bit more. We're leading a little bit more with the setup and the way we want to go with the car now, to try and take some of the pressure off him. Just concentrate on the driving and look after getting the notes right and making sure his driving's perfect. The car, we know what setups the car needs to be in to move forward. So we provide something that we know works, and then we build on each element one step at a time. We've always said, in WRC, to get to top level once you're in the top category car can still take 5 years, and I still think that's relevant in Rally 2. You can maybe get to the front a bit quicker, but really this is John's first year in Rally 2, so consistently in Rally 2. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to do. So you have to treat each crew differently and work out a development plan with them in order to make it go forward. And I think there is continual improvement on every rally, which is the main thing.
And as you mentioned there, look, not only is it Ceredigion a round of the ERC, but it's also the next round of the BRC, and William and Liam are coming into that, leaders of that championship. Yeah,
I mean, we're in a good position at the moment, but we drop scores, it changes it all around a little bit, and we know we've got to have strong results on the double header. Ceredigion is effectively 2 rounds of BRC. So there's great opportunity there, but we need to be winning at least one, really. I think Will is probably stronger at the moment on tarmac than the gravel, to be honest. What he did in West Cork at the start of the year still surprised a lot of people. And I think if we can find that kind of rhythm again, it'll be great. The weather's looking very mixed for this week, which even if the rally is dry, the verges and everything is going to be very wet still. The general UK is still very wet at the moment, so that will make the roads muddy, slippery, horrible, which he performed very well at previously. So I do think there's a good chance, but we know there's a bit of pressure on to have some strong results to ensure that we can stay, at the front of the field in BRC, and that will be the main goal. But also, Will and Liam kind of exceeded our expectations in where we find ourselves in that championship. So we're a little bit on the back foot in some ways. The closest rival in Chris at the moment is a lot more experience than Will. So it's not going to be an easy one, but it's not to say that it's not possible. And I think, one thing that's been impressive from Will is his approach on each rally, and the pressure doesn't seem to be affecting him. So, we concentrate and keep moving forward like that. Hopefully we can come away with a nice result.
And, you go back to the Grampian rally, didn't go to plan for Will, 2 punctures in his spin, obviously affected his results there. But 4 fastest stage times, and again, a reflection of the Fiesta. There was also 4 stage wins there for Ocean Price as well. So again, the car's performing very well, and again, Will is getting the times and the pace there.
Yeah, I think like I said at the top of the show, we can be very happy with the performance of the Fiesta, and every event it goes on, when it has good level drivers in it, it's at the top of the field. And BRC has shown that as well with Ocean, with Will. Even Max and Gary, they're near the front of the field as well. So we're very happy how we're doing across the whole board. It would be fantastic to see Will win, but also for me as an M Sport hat on, it's fantastic to just see a Fiesta win. So Ocean's doing great as well, and he still can't be taken out of this title fight, especially with the drop scores. So the Toyota's here. Everybody's liking the Toyota. It's the nice new shiny toy on the block. But I think one thing that's very good with the Rally 2 regulations is they're very stable. And every time a new car is brought to the market, there isn't all of a sudden a runaway leader. It just means that all the cars are very close still, which is great to see. And the Toyota has won some events in major national championships in WRC now. So it's shown it's a car that's capable, but it also isn't running away with everything. It's not winning everything it goes to do. So that's great for the series and for that class. And I think that although the Fiesta is seen as an older car, it's still right up there in terms of performance. So very happy to see that. And again, looking forward to seeing what we can do in Wales, and prove again that it's a winner on tarmac.
Yeah, and then from Cardigan, Will's hopping on a plane more or less straight away for Greece. What's the plans for WRC2 in Greece?
Yeah, I mean, he's not actually competing there. He's just going over to have a look. But it's a difficult one actually, because the ERC and WRC round, with the recce starting on the Monday in Greece, it means anyone really doing the ERC event struggles to do the WRC event as well. I think he wants to go over, have a look at conditions, understand what's going forward. That's a thing we've spoken to with younger drivers before, to really understand these events. Greece isn't going to drop off the calendar anytime soon, so going to see how the roads develop, understand what's going on in the rallies. Just get some more information and have a look on the recce and see what's going on. I think that's the plan. Really, is a bit of information gathering. So it's about committing full time to this job. You effectively want to become a professional rally driver. You need to do everything in your possibilities that you can do to get better and better. So even if you're not competing, it doesn't mean you can't still learn things on an event.
And Rich, recent announcement from yourselves is the upcoming 6-part documentary series, More Than Machine. Again, it's often referenced what Drive to Survive has done for Formula One and bringing new fans in the door. Obviously, M Sport feels it's very important to get the background stories out there, what's happening in the team and behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, this came about from a couple of discussions with myself and one of our main sponsors, Safety Culture, and their CEO. And he's very into filmmaking and telling stories as a hobby, as well as using that within the business that they have as well to talk about the stories and how we work things. And we've worked closely with them for 4 years now. And I've always had this dream of trying to get this behind the scenes footage that we never seem to see, because there is so many stories, so much going on. And luckily we were able to find a way to put a series together. it's done at a very professional level, as people will see. Watch the trailer. It's not an in-house thing. It's very much a external production company, and there's been a lot of filming going on in terms of backstory, spending time with people like myself, Adrian, Gregoire, some of the mechanics, engineers, physios, Malcolm, Elaine. There's backstories to everybody within the team, to tell what's going on and try and give a bit of an insight into what happens, behind what we see from WRC footage. So, it goes right from just how we all got into the sport and how we find ourselves there to, the second episode goes into detail on Rally Croatia and, tyre choices, meetings in the morning, what's going on, all the information that we're putting together to try and make our strategic decisions, which nobody ever gets to see. So we kind of open the door, let people in. It's YouTube at the minute, but I've seen a lot of comments about, we want it on Netflix, we want it on all these kind of things, which would be great. But, I think I see this hopefully as a catalyst that will entice other teams and the WRC for us to come together to find a way to do a series that includes everybody, not just M Sport. And there's great potential going forward. But there was an opportunity for us to do it based around M Sport, and I really hope that it comes to show people how great this sport is. And it's been really nice to do. It's been quite a bit of a challenge, I guess, to have these film crew all around you all the time, wanting everything, access to everything. But the only way to make a good show is to do that and give that. And we've all become accustomed to it. But there's a few little challenges we had to pass by. But I'm really happy with how it's come out, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people react to it.
And you've also been working with the WRC promoter to trial and to test ways of bringing, the background, the data stuff forward for fans. I know there's lots planned for next year. What's been involved in that, Rich?
Yeah, so there's a goal next year to have what they call a command center, which is where we want to try and bring teams into one area, so that when we're watching the stages, we can talk to the cars from this center, so that the fans can hear what's being said between the teams and the drivers, and look at ways of when we have stories on the road sections in between the stages. How do we cover that? How do we get that information? If the car's got a mechanical problem during the stage, how can we see that? F1, for example, they get all this kind of data, and the fan and the viewership is able to understand that. And Rally was still very prehistoric in some ways, I think the best way to put it. So we've been trialing a little antenna on top of the car, which transmits live data back from the car as it's competing. They already have the radio system in the plane, so that we can utilize that to speak with crews. As technology progresses as well, it's a lot easier to transfer and use data. So it's going to be a gradual process. I think the command center will evolve as the years go by. But certainly looking forward to seeing how we can start to improve and tell the stories more, and then combine that with a behind-the-scenes documentary as well. If we can get all the teams involved, it would be great to have all this access that we currently don't have. And yes, there's only 3 teams, but there's still so much to talk about and so much to look at. So it's a very exciting element and part of development of the WRC, and looking forward to see what happens.
And how do you balance, the giving access to your data at the same time, you're obviously competing as teams. So, it must be a very thin line that you're walking there.
Yeah, me and engineers sometimes have interesting discussions. I think, an engineer wants to share nothing, and I'd like to share everything. So there's always a bit of a middle ground somewhere. I think the beauty that we kind of see ourselves in WRC at the moment is that we're 3 years through a 5-year development cycle. Really, there isn't huge amounts of data that need to be hidden, and the very confidential data, or the data that we really don't want people out. I think we will understand that that's fair enough to keep to ourselves. But there's a lot of data that we collect that would be interesting stories for fans and for people to see, and that can compare driver styles and how a certain driver is being better than others. Just telling those kind of stories, and then any mechanical issues we have, delving into what's happened, why, how do we fix it, understanding, telling the more detailed stories. They're all things we can do with this data. And also improve on-screen graphics and on-screen comparisons when we're in the stages, so we can see exactly what's happening, time gaps, or, just having, we used to have it before with virtual spectator with cars overlaying, but there's a lot more you can do now in the modern day. So, that's our next challenge as well. It's not only just gathering the data, how do we tell the story as well? So that's another whole group of discussions going on. So like I said, I think this will naturally progress over the next 2 to 3 years.
Mm.
But having a starting point is the number one thing. If we don't start somewhere, we'll never get it going at all.
Yeah. And then just looking at this year's WRC campaign, like, we're obviously aware that M Sport has very strong faith in Adrian's talent and ability, but I'm sure you must be blown away by 4 podium finishes this year.
Well, there's definitely no one complaining, and I think, the one we got in Finland was a bit, wasn't quite expected, I guess, but you take them. But I think what we've learned from that is, Adrian had a hard Friday morning, wasn't enjoying the setup, didn't like the conditions, was struggling with the confidence, but kept going, just kind of did his own thing, trying different setups, trying to make the car more responsive to how he liked it over the course of the weekend. And by doing that, kept in touch with the others. And then on Sunday, when all hell broke loose and everybody was flying off into the scenery, we basically inherited the 3rd position, which isn't necessarily how you want to gain a podium, but it's still a podium. And, I think that just goes to show that you can't ever just say, if you had a bad morning, right, I'm not going to really bother anymore, because you never know what will happen. And, we've shown that there. And I think, I'm looking forward to these last 4 events. I think there's a very good opportunity for us to get another podium at least. And I'd love to get a second now. We've had 4 thirds. The next is a second. And I'd love to see Gregoire continue to develop over the course of the season. So, yeah, really looking forward to these 4 very different events that are left.
And any change in plan? Gloves off for the last 4 events or anything? Or is it just like pushed like mad, or just continue as has been?
I think it's very easy to say we just take the gloves off and go for it, but you have 4 retirements at the end of the season. That wouldn't be. I think everybody would look at it a different way.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think the key would be to continue as we are. Take little steps, try and push where it's right, try and take advantage where it's right. Start strong on every event, but not to the point where you're trying to, have an accident or you're pushing too far. There's going to be a really big battle at the front for this title fight. And we can inherit some good positions if things do happen. They're tricky rallies that are left. So Greece is rough and difficult. Chile is fast, technical, loose. Not much margin for error. Central Europe can be anything depending on the weather, and the same in Japan. So they're really tough rallies left. So I think there's a lot to come yet.
And Martin's Sesks. We saw him have 2 very successful run-outs in the Rally 1 Puma. Like, obviously a very talented driver, but he made it look very easy transitioning to Rally 1.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't all think it's as easy as that. But, I think him and what Sami did in Finland, it goes to show that there are youngsters that are ready to jump into this top category. And, you can be fast in a Rally 1 car, but to be consistently fast is difficult. And I think we saw that with both youngsters, especially for Martins in Latvia. As the days went on, Saturday afternoon into Sunday, Steb was just tweaking up the pressure every single stage, just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And, that's where you realise how good the very top guys are. But I think the goal of what we achieved with the help of the promoter as well, they were very involved in making that happen with some funding. It just gives this opportunity for youngsters to show what they can do and put their name in the hat for going forward and as an option for us and for any of the teams. So that's great to see that we've already had 2 young drivers go into the top category this year and prove that they could be an option. And I think with Martins especially, he had a really strong following on social media afterwards. He just showed he was loving what he was doing, and it was great to see. And we always want new characters, so it's very nice to find one like that. But nothing's easy. So just getting those 2 results was fantastic and amazing, but it doesn't mean that we can replicate it everywhere. So, of course, we're trying to see what else is possible, but it really is quite tricky with needing to find additional funding to do it. It's not an easy task. But like I said, there's 4 rounds left. If we can find anything to make it work, we'll certainly be trying.
And a little closer to home, as Rich spoke about earlier, like a one for M Sport in the Ulster Rally as well too. Like, and this championship keeps getting building and building and better. It's going to be so exciting if we get to Cork. Like 2 guys there is probably going to go between the 2 of them, but there's no guarantees of that. We've seen rallying so many times before, the way that a cert can just fall apart.
Look at Matt Edwards in the Ulster Rally. You know, Matt had been setting a couple of phenomenal times, stage 3. And if anybody's seen the social media post that Matt put up on Instagram, it's literally the distance of his 2 feet together was the margin of error that brought him from the side of the road into, you know, the barbed wire fence. And that was it, game over. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, we've said before, and Mikey Galvin's explained to us before, you know, these guys are on the edge. There really is fine margins here between keeping it on the road and being gone. And you know, anything can happen. Like, it's always exciting when the championship comes down to the wire. I love it when it comes down to the last round and everybody still has to try for it. But anything can happen.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And the Ulster just really proved that, like the changing conditions, like parts of the stage wet, parts of the stage dry. Everybody kept saying there was no right tire, you know, or there was no wrong tire because it was just a complete lottery. And like that just the excitement just was there. Like every stage, like you were just waiting as you know what's going to happen next kind of thing. And it, you know, that's what we just love. It's the drama, it's the excitement of the whole story.
That's it. You know, there was an unknown every single time. And, you know, I know out spectating at it, we could have got to a stage and, yeah, weather looked good. And then next 10 minutes later, there was a sudden, you know, unexpected downpour because even checking the weather forecast on the day, rain wasn't expected. Yet, you know, we had intermittent showers and it kept livening things up.
And like you know, we get a chance now to catch up with this Philip White. You know, he won the junior section of the event, and like you know, I just think it's such a feel good story. This is the guy a few years ago in the junior 1000 that was competing against you know Josh McRae and Wal Crichton, and like he has watched their progression. And this guy, he's still in his micro, but the way he's developing that car over the years, and like to set the times he was setting, like this is the guy. If he had the backup, he could have been up there too. But it's just a story maybe of what could have been, and then we'll go on then to Kevin O'Driscoll, and he'll give us the sort of the permutations of where the championship is, and looking forward to Cork as well too. So stay tuned for this. One of the really good news stories coming out of the Ulster Rally was Philip White, and you took the junior rally one, but not only that, like what an impressive performance you put in. The stage times were very impressive. You have to be delighted with the result.
Yeah, I'm more than happy just to finish a rally for once. I think past year and a half, it hasn't exactly been plain sailing. So, with especially the amount of work that went into the car from a lot of people for this event, there was quite a bit of pressure to deliver. And trying out the new brake kit in the road for the first time was definitely a challenge. But to get onto that quick enough and set the times that we did was really, really happy with the performance.
Yeah, because like I spoke to yourself and your father at the finish, like, and like this has been a family, friends, everybody's been coming down to get this car ready, get this car finished, to give you the opportunity to compete in the Ulster.
Yeah, it was like we planned to do the event last year and it didn't work out with the accident at the Down Rally. So, with this year doing the reduced season and having the opportunity, thought everything was perfect and set up for just to have a full out maximum attack go at it. And yeah, it was sort of close to the deadline trying to get the brake kit developed and on. Like we only tested it on Wednesday night before the event, and even then it was driving it on sort of a closed piece of land, just braking, accelerating, left foot braking just to get a feel for the pressure. And like we couldn't even set the front brake pressure, like we could only dial in the back brake. So we're accelerating and braking to near a stop, just trying to make sure we weren't locking them up and swapping ends.
And like once you set off on stage one, it was like it was a voyage of discovery. And did it feel comfortable straight away?
Well, the first stage was wet. We made, I would say it was a good tire choice. Like for the first stage was wet, the second stage was dry. We went for the soft hosier in the front, which was a little bit too hard for the wet stage, and then a little bit too soft for the 9 miler in the dry. Like they were calling out for mercy by the end of that one, but like I'd say probably having the first stage in the wet definitely got myself acclimatized to them quite quickly. And then as the rally progressed and the stages were a lot drier and a lot faster, definitely got used to the brake pressure. I still think I wasn't using all of the brakes. I definitely think there's more in the car to brake a lot later. But I think it's sort of better to stay on the safer side of the corner than clearing the hedge or having an over cost myself more time.
And like before it was supposed to go any further, I have to say to the Ulster, like you know that rally, it was a 1 day rally, but that was a hard, tough rally, like 10 stages. You know, it's a lot to fit in a day, and they were challenging stages.
Yeah, we we finished on the seventh stage because the junior rally
Oh
had a
yeah,
shorter
of course. Yeah.
schedule. And I mean, I turned to the navigators like I didn't have three more stages in me. Like the two 9 milers at the start of the day, I think it was a 2 7 mile and a 9 mile in the second loop. Now we didn't have the opportunity to do I think stage five, I think because of an accident on it. But to be fair, like running that far back, we kind of expected at least one stage to be cancelled. And like the organisers done a really fantastic job of getting us turned around quickly back into service and kept the rally flowing really well. So I was really impressed to be a part of that rally for the first time and see the scale of the organisation that they had going. And like the stages themselves, definitely the most technical that I've ever done. Like really, really difficult, but really, really enjoyable. And
Mhm.
even the road sections, really, really simple. Like you're up and down the carriageway or A roads, like you weren't having to cut across the country. Now I know that's, geographically for the likes of the Sperrins, of course, you have to go across country and a lot of down back roads to get to those stages. So it was just nice that they pieced it all together the way they did.
And I know from speaking to other competitors as well, they thought was a great thing was even on the Friday for the recce, the stages were arrowed and one as well too, and makes the recce flow a lot easier as well.
Yeah, like the recce was really simple. Like the stages were really easy to loop as well. Like I think at most, we spent 10 minutes looping from the end of like stage one back around to the start of stage one again. So like the recce was done. I know we were only allowed two passes, but given that there was five stages, I don't even think three passes would have been possible if we were allowed. We done the full recce in about 5 hours, and that was taking an hour break at lunch. So the compact routes for each stage and looping each stage made it really, really easy that way.
Yeah, and it has to be said, the was it the what stage was it you said like a fastest two-wheel drive time or front-wheel drive time overall? That's some pedaling in the micro.
Yeah, I didn't quite expect that one to be honest. Like whenever we got told at the end of the event actually that's yeah, there's a rumor going about that we set fastest front wheel drive time. Didn't quite believe it because I know on that stage we were still dealing with the temperature issue and wasn't driving at full 10 tenths, but we were still pushing on to try and gain time back on Stanley. But yeah, I got to the end and we were like point 0.2 quicker than Aoife. So we couldn't quite believe it. I think, in fairness, the start of their stage was a wee bit damp, but nearly makes that sort of a bit of a level playing field between the sort of high spec Rally 4 car and 22 grand micro.
And I know it as a kind of like a standing joke. This is the car you started, like in Nahidui and these events years ago. Like it has been developed, but not substantially developed. Like there's yes, there's a few trick bits, but it's still the nuts and bolts are mainly the same.
Yeah, it's been gradual throughout the years. Like obviously, whenever we started off in the 1 liter series, like it was very, very basic. Everything was as per championship regulations, and then after that, whenever we tried to sell the car, we actually couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted to buy it because it wasn't deemed a competitive car in the J1000 anymore. Just thought, what, put a 1400 engine in it and see what happens. And bit by bit, the cars gradually progressed from there. Like we were talking about like the latest upgrade with the brakes, like a good bit of time and development has went into them. Racing Rally did a really good kit, but it involved a couple of extra steps, spacing out the wheels. So to keep the handling of the micro as per what we wanted it, we developed a bell that would mean you didn't have to make those changes. So I think it's worked really well so far, and hopefully get a wee bit more comfortable in it going forward.
Yeah, and like and you were competing in the junior rally. You weren't part of the micro challenge, but
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm sure you were obviously comparing your times with Stanley and all the others as well too. And like, we've been long advocated, how good this micro challenge is. Like there was what six other micros started the event, so there was eight in total. And
Yeah,
what there's such a potential in that championship that it's going to explode sometime very shortly because every rally, it's different competitors. If we get an event that everybody's out together, there could be 12 or 14 guys out easily.
yeah, like it does have the massive potential to take off. Like I still see boys in England building cars as well, and hopefully they'll come over at some point to do some of our rallies. And I know like the Micro Challenge put in a massive effort to get us to the Ulster Rally. Like the competitors wanted since Tyrone had unfortunately their road stage cancelled and it went to basically like a multi-venue event. We wanted that road event. We needed we needed closed road tarmac because that's what a lot of the drivers craved, and like a lot of the competitors spoke to the championship organizers and they listened and they put a plan together to get everybody to the Ulster Rally. So massive fair play to them on that. Just unfortunately it didn't work out that it couldn't be part of both. Unfortunately, like I would have loved to have represented the both, but it still worked out all the same. Like to finish first junior and first micro on the road, still a massive achievement. And even at that, like Stanley Orr, really impressed with how he's came on with the car.
Yeah.
Like he used quite good tactics at the start of the first stage, like nearly, I would say it's nearly by accident because he didn't have the tires, so he put the super softs in the front and I think he had one soft and one medium on the back or two mediums on the back. And that worked perfectly for the first damp stage and then swapped the mediums to the front on the second stage. And I think after the first lap, he took 16 or 17 seconds out of it. So I was taken back by that, but thankfully managed to claw back quite a bit of time on him throughout the rest of the event.
Yeah, like Stanley's been around rallying for so long, he's a wily old fox too at the same time, isn't he?
he's he's picked up plenty of experience, like
Yeah.
sort of crafty ideas and tactical decisions. Like it's good to be racing against somebody like that you can learn from them and
Uh-huh.
sort of say, okay, that actually might work because I would have thought putting mediums on the back of my car would have turned it into a bit of a shopping trolley. But if it worked in his car, it's something to think about because we would struggle to carry a second tire, so like we can only really swap out one.
Mhm.
So maybe having those ideas going forward might help us in future events.
For sure. And like from there you have him, yeah, and Andrew Bush. Like Weavy hasn't really been out much this year, but he has the potential there. And the whole championship, it is organised by competitors for competitors. You can just get that feel that everybody's pulling in the one direction.
Yeah, it's nice like that. It's nice racing against those people. It would be nice to see so like younger batters in
Hmm.
it. Like I know there was a couple that were meant to come out this season that just ended up didn't. So I'm kind of hoping in the future that you can get a drive for younger people that even if they're leaving the forestry championship, hold on to the micro, don't sell it. If you want to sell a suspension kit on it to afford the engine, just come out in the championship and do it that way.
Aye, because you don't need the wide body, you don't need all the bells and whistles. Like your car, it's still the narrow track, and yes, there's a few tweaks, and but there's a production class that you can start out and get the feedback, get the feel of the car, and then gradually upgrade the car.
Yeah, like there's steps you can take, especially if you want to come into the standard class for the first time, even not change the gravel car, but tarmac suspension into it, and just do it for the first time just to get experience in closed roads, and then upgrade the engine gearbox, and that basically turns it into a micro of my spec. Like it doesn't take a lot to take a standard car to what my car is. Like yeah, if you have the budget and the time, go for a kit car, sure, but like we've been trying to prove a lot that the narrow body is still a good competitive car, and you do sort of find yourself clinging on to time, trying to get time back. That's quite difficult and near impossible on certain stages, especially against the kit cars. But you sort of just have to grit your teeth and go for it. Like throughout my whole junior career, I've always been up against competitors that have been in slightly more well-equipped machinery. Like in the J1000, I was up against William Crichton in a C1, and then Josh McAlee in the 107. So learn to drive the absolute nuts off a car against those guys definitely helped me going forward as a driver because it taught you to maximize everything and get absolutely everything out of a car before you look to then upgrade it.
Yeah, and like that helps you develop as a driver, obviously, because if you're too comfortable, you're not developing. You need to grab it by the scruff of the neck and get the best out of it.
Yeah, like to be fair, like the car itself being that narrow and that small and sort of the bumpy narrow road, you do have to hold on for dear life. And there were a couple of roads on the Ulster, you just kind of had to hold your foot down and hope for the best, and just let the front of the car pull you out of any skips or jumps.
And like as you said, like fastest overall two-wheel drive on one of the stages there on Saturday. 2022 Weavy won in the two-wheel drive in Kirkeston. It shows the absolute potential of these cars. Yes, they're underpowered. They're not they don't bang and whistle, but on the right hands they can be very successful and get you noticed.
Yeah, they are definitely giant killers. Like we've set fastest front wheel drive times before. I think the down rally 22 after the puncture, we were driving quite angry after that one, trying to call back time, trying to win the class and set two or three fastest front wheel drive times in the damp. And yeah, setting a fastest front wheel drive time with the Ulster whenever it probably shouldn't have been setting those types of times was still nice. And it's trying to encourage people that look, yes, an R2, an R2T or Rally 4 car is definitely a nice piece of machinery to have, but if you can drive a micro 10 beat me, beat Stevie, beat Stanley, whoever, then you're poised and in the right position to then take that step up and know how to drive those cars.
Yeah, because the tricks of the trade that you've picked up in your micro will make it so much easier to make that next step up the ladder.
Yeah, and like I'm still learning plenty. Like there's stuff that I've learned even at the down or the Ulster Rally there. Like more so like mechanical things, what to watch out for with the car. Like I know with the temperature issue that we had, definitely made the rest of the day quite difficult to sort of manage pace and didn't quite know right should I be pushing on harder to try and get more air into the car or what I should be doing with it. Really, like we'd put quite a lot of water into the car throughout each loop. So it definitely added sort of the stress element to it, but just kind of thankful the car held on and got us to the end.
I suppose a man that we really need to thank as well is Liam. Stepped in at the last minute, and what a performance he put in.
Yeah, it was a wee bit of a sort of panic session before the event whenever Brian wasn't able to do the event and not having your regular navigator there does add a wee bit of tension because you want to be able to fully trust in the person that's sitting beside you to call the notes of the corner ahead and like Liam, it's his first year rallying, sent me through the onboard, thought, really happy with that. And like even from the recce, just confidence grew with him. Like I had full trust in him, and especially that first stage, like it is no easy stage. Like you're out of one corner into the next. I think after the stage that we went fastest on, is like he said, I didn't look up from the pace notebook once, but he was still able to feel everything and know which corner to call. And like he hit every note perfectly. And like it's his first year rallying too, so for him being in his first year and going forward, like he's definitely a navigator that's one to watch. Or like if there's anybody in an R5 or even top two wheel drive that needs somebody that they can trust and they can be reassured they're calling the notes, I would definitely recommend him.
And I suppose then to wrap up, then like we mentioned earlier at the start, like how big a family and a affair this is, and you can't do all this rallying without family and sponsors and all. Those are all very important to get Philip White rallying.
Yeah, it's like if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be rallying. I wouldn't have been able to do half the stuff that I've been able to do. Like especially Dad's, he had been there since day dot. He bought my first quad, bought my first go kart, bought my first car. And he had to teach me how to drive. Like he's been there and taught me absolutely everything that I know. And like mom as well, she is on catering, sometimes emotional support, and well, nearly she needs sometimes emotional support, depending on what times I've set in the stage. But it's just nice to have that support around you and know that even if there's a good rally, even if there's a bad rally, you have those people around you. And like even all the sponsors that I've had over the past number of years, like some family friends, some people have just reached out and said, look, here's a lock a pound or we're sure we buy those tires for you and just to help you out. Each pound save, each gallon of fuel bought from it goes such a long way that we can then put that money into further development and like the brake kit is a massive step forward for us and definitely one that I'm looking forward to experimenting with as we go forward.
Kevin, we had the penultimate round of the Tarmac Championship at the weekend, the Ulster Rally, and it has kind of left the championship, well, almost a two-horse race, I suppose, at this stage.
Yeah, you probably want some kind of a degree in maths to sort of work it out, but I think it seems like it's just down to Callum and Keith now. It looks like Matt is out of the running because the most he can get is 94.5, and he's going to lose 2.5 points for Galway, which is to 92. Keith has already exceeded that. So, as I see it, it's Callum and Keith, yeah. And you could have the potential if Keith were to come second and Callum were to win in Cork, that they both finish up level in points, So that could be a bit of a Kenny McKinstry, Stephen Finlay scenario from 30 years ago, yeah. So it is possible. It shows that Keith obviously has to finish in the top two. the problem there, I suppose, in championship terms, is the two boys will be there, but is there anyone really that's going to go there and challenge them and you know, possibly split them up? You know, there hasn't been a huge take up in the last number of rounds of registered competitors, so it's kind of, you know, it could just make life a little bit more awkward for Callum. Obviously, Keith has to finish the rally anyway, so you know, and Callum has to win. So I mean, it's but that's what you potentially could be looking at is a potential tie on points at the top. There's certainly a real possibility of it happening.
Yeah, and like what a year it has been. Like, you know, multiple winners this year. You know, like we've had Keith winning, Matt won, and Callum won. Like it's
Yeah.
been a few years since we had three different winners in the championship, and it's been
Yeah, it's been a
and it's
couple of
the
years.
fact that
Yeah.
it's going down to the last round as well too. It has been fascinating, the ups and downs and twists and turns.
Yeah, and I suppose one thing that's really been impressive, I suppose everyone expected Keith and Matt to edge away, and Callum had a poor start, but obviously with non-finishes in West Cork and I think the circuit. So, I mean, for him to turn the championship around the way he has is just shows like it's a fantastic achievement. I think it just shows how quick he really is, and he did give us little glimpses of that last year when he was challenging Adrian from the Ulster as well.
Yeah.
And you know, he's carried that form over. I mean, and he's adapted to the Skoda like a duck to water. I mean, like that Skoda looked fantastic last weekend in the Ulster.
Yeah, because like, you know, that was a huge gamble to take, you know, a couple of days away from the start of Donegal to make that change over and take the one there. Yes, he was maybe a wee bit fortuitous with Matt's problem, but it's still at the same time you have to be there to take advantage of any wee issues.
Really do, and I suppose the other side of that is that, you know, Josh himself, or not Josh, but Callum himself, had made a few mistakes along the way that probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have put him in that place in the first place. You know, he had a few little spins and off and stuff, but so I mean, but the main thing was the pace that he was on from the off and has been on from the off. I mean, okay, Keith was probably just that little bit quicker last weekend, but Callum, like, it has an awful lot to be proud of. Like in terms of his driving, he's just really up there with the best at the moment. You know, he's
Yeah,
just
because
really.
Killarney was a perfect example of that. You know, like, you know, that's 3 1s in a row now in Killarney, 2 1s in a row in Donegal. Like that's Tarmac Titan level there, really, isn't it? You know, he is really setting the standard.
Yeah. He's racking up the wins all right now. But yeah, and I suppose look, it's probably a bit of a double-edged sword because when you have people or drivers as good as Keith and Matt and they're dominating, then obviously after a while, like any championship, if the same 2 or 3 are on top, then obviously the challenge falls away a little bit in the back. Which we probably have a higher level of speed even this year, and that's not taking away from Josh because Josh obviously has been trying to adjust to a new car as well. So, and maybe showed flashes of it last weekend that maybe hopefully getting it a bit right, you know, because obviously with the Hyundai being outdated and maybe not as comfortable in the new Hyundai, it was always a bit of a gamble. Somebody was probably going to sit into a new car somewhere and be happy with it. Callum was the one. Josh obviously tried and it didn't happen. So, but I mean, you wouldn't write Josh off yet. I mean, if he's going to start, he's well capable of matching the pace of those boys as well. So, whether he
As
goes
you
to Cork,
said
I
there,
don't know.
yeah, as you said, like the Ulster, like you know, a fastest time and looked a wee bit more comfortable. You know, he had a puncher and a couple of other wee issues, but like there seemed to be like, and James Ford set a fastest time. Is there, you know, shoots at the Citroen is finally coming good. You know, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a bit of work being done, and I certainly can tell you that from driving them last weekend, those roads weren't easy to drive on anyway. You know, the road car, never mind saying so some of those stages. So if the fact that Citroen held up over those, and Josh was setting good times, that probably bodes well. Yeah, there's probably a little bit more work. There's obviously more work done, maybe with the Ford, and obviously the Skoda is probably a bit more strange because you don't really expect maybe that to be as quick out the box. All Eddie Doherty had a good run this year as well in his older version, but still. You know, I still think it's probably a combination of Callum's talent and obviously the Skoda is a very, very good car. Obviously, much newer car as well than the Volkswagen. Just for all its benefits, but it's an older car and technology which had stopped being being developed. You know, so you know, to go straight into a Skoda like that and shows that car can be seriously competitive on. You know, I suppose you could argue Donegal and Ulster roads. There's quite a range in the types of roads there's in both rallies, you know, from the smooth stuff that's top of Knockouts to some of the stuff like Rose Ditches last weekend. You know, you've kind of every type of road in those 2 rallies that Callum has tried, and he's been quick on all of those types of roads. So, I think, you know, maybe like Fiesta has obviously surprised a little bit this year too at his pace. It's probably really had a refresh and, you know, had gone really well with Matt and with Keith. So, yeah, like Volkswagen may have had his day, you know, but maybe the Skoda's the next one, and maybe the Citroen as well if it gets sorted out. You know,
Yeah, and
it'll be interesting to see.
and we haven't even touched really on the Toyota. Like Marion had one here for Donegal,
Yeah.
and like it come back really strong after, you know, maybe a slight disappointing Friday he had issues on the Friday, but then Saturday, Sunday, his times were as quick as anybody. So
They were.
if somebody lands with a Yaris in the right hands, would
Yeah.
have to sit up and take
Yeah,
notice.
it's funny. Yeah, you're right in that, because I'd actually forgotten. I had slipped my mind about the Irish. That's another potential dark horse along the way as well. You know, if somebody does decide to invest in one, and how long it'll take for it to come right. But I mean, Marion will already have done the testing for somebody. So you know, it's an interesting 25. Now, if a few more cars start arriving in these shores, you know.
I know, and like, you know, we do keep saying this. This is like a real golden era of rallying. Like, we are being treated to some of the best cars and some of the best drivers.
Mm-hmm. We are, because I suppose you go back. We all liked our 2007 time of rallying. You know, when you put the Subaru and the 24, and that was pretty much it. And even the Fords were only on the edge of it. But we have a far greater range of manufacturers now, and you know, you have 4 or 5, maybe sometimes 6, I suppose. But you have those extra types of cars, and you know, there's different. Each one is adapting. Each driver is adapting differently to what he has. I mean, if you look at David Kelly, for example, this year has a very good year as well. Citroen probably didn't have much luck with it, but changed with Volkswagen, which, as I said, is older technology, but still has a lot of good qualities about it as well, particularly the handling. So, you know, if you want to get kind of confidence back up and a bit of speed back up, those cars are obviously still well able to go, you know, but obviously there's probably a shelf life now for where it's at. But it just shows in the right hands, you know, if somebody's comfortable with the car, like Josh with the old Hyundai, even still this year coming back
the
out.
stone throwers,
You know, yeah, exactly. So, you know, obviously it's going to be different at the very, very top level of Irish tarmac rallying, and especially when you're dealing with the likes of Matt and Keith there. But at the same time, you know, there's opportunities there for guys to come in and step up again. You know, Eddie's one guy now I'd be watching out for next year again if he's stays at that, you know. And like Cal McCourt was very quick this year, and a few times he was out, you know, and you had Desi's been quick in flashes as well. So like all these guys had got away, or like, you know, if they can come back, you know, refresh for next year, and you know, ready to give us a go again. Who knows what might happen? I think this year
we
we're
have
lucky
the
that
likes of Matt and Keith and these guys, you know, willing to put their money where their mouth is and come here and compete. It shows you that, you know, the high regard that our championships held in.
Yeah, it does. And look, I suppose Callum has stepped up, because we pretty much had almost like 2 works level drivers coming here to and obviously William Crichton as well. So, you know, in West Cork. So, I mean, all those boys will raise the bar for other lads, and obviously Callum is the one that's been closest to, you know, getting to that bar this year. And I don't think Josh is that far away from it either. So, yeah, hopefully now it'll be hopefully it'll keep that trend going. You know, that it'll push levels higher.
That's for sure. And then like the modified, it looks like it's probably fair to say again maybe a 2-horse race, but Kevin Kelleher is still lurking in the background there too. You know, ready to pick up any errors by either Frank or Damien Toner.
I think Kevin. I don't know if Kevin can reach. Like Kevin can get 72, but Damien and Frank are 4 points apart. Has kind of been tit for tat all year now. I think Frank took the first top points of the year there. I think Frank has a slight edge. I think he'd have to win, obviously. I think, but because they both have had non-finishes and dropped scores along the way. So I think in Cork, if both go, I think Frank has to win or finish ahead of Damien in one shape or form. And I think that might just be enough. Probably even taking drop scores into account, it might give him an edge of 1 point only. It'll be very, very close again. If it's level again, I suspect it could be count back again, because it's very, you know, they're very I think Frank took the first win of the year, but there won't be much in it, you know. Especially the way both of them drove last weekend, held for leather anyway, you know.
That's it, like, you know, and like, you know, when you hear the you know, the stage end interviews, you know, Damien lending parts to other competitors, Frank helping other competitors keep staying the rally, you know, that's fantastic rally. And you know, yes, they'll take each shoulder, you know, they'll fight over a second, but they'll put tires in other guys' car at the same time.
Yeah, they're 2 good guys, they're 2 sound guys, to be honest with you, know. And it's a shame there has to be a winner out of those 2, you know. I'd love to see both of them win it, but I think Damien did win this championship a couple of years ago. Frank, I don't think is committed to doing well. He did in the earlier years of the modified, but hasn't as much in later years. But it would be fantastic as well for him, because he's a great supporter of Irish rallying, and as is Damien, to be honest. They do a lot of rallying, and they do, you know. I think it'll be a good battle, and they were very, very well matched last weekend as well.
That's for sure. And then the Rally 4 guys as well too. You know, the guys and girls, because Aoife won the category there at the weekend. But like that's been a fascinating battle all year then too.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's Ryan McHugh, like, and Kieran Grogan and these guys out as well. They're you know, Craig Wald. All these guys are they're serious. Like, they're serious pace in those cars. They're really driving those cars to the limit. You know, Jack Williams had a few outings as well. It is interesting. It's it's very interesting where that develops now next year, how that goes, and who else stays around. But it's certainly becoming it's more popular, getting more popular category now as well. There's a lot more entries coming in there, and it's a great stepping stone, I think. So, and there's certainly no shortage of commitment and no shortage of action there, because there is so little between them. I mean, one spin just knocks you right out of contention. It just shows how tough the whole thing is.
Yeah, and the fact that Ryan tied up the championship early in Donegal, it's allowed him now to go and spread his wings. He's doing gravel events and one thing or another. He's a real wee star of the future there as well.
It is, but I think there's a few there actually. As I said, a few of the ones I mentioned there already. Yeah. I think there is a lot. I mean, if Ryan moves on to other things or whatever, or dips in and out, there's going to be someone behind him ready to take his crown very, very quickly. Again, that's just the nature of it, and it'll be interesting to see how it'll develop next year and how many of these will step forward, and what the Queen Rise to the top with the real quick boys and girls will be out and about again. And I think it's great, because it's not like before. Maybe we might only have 2 or 3 in the category. Now you're getting I think up to 8 or 10, off a similar level. And that's great to see. It's proper competition. That's what people want.
That's for sure. And the junior category probably hasn't been as well supported as has been in recent years, but still, it's gone down to the last round there. Barry McIntyre probably has the advantage, but we all seem to be rallying. It's not over till it's over.
No, it's not over. And I mean, I see him in West Cork this year when, he's had a really good time in the first stage, and on the Sunday, only put a drive shot to pop in the second one, and that was a home rally for him near enough. So, I mean, he's probably, a finish is what he'll need, really. The problem there for him is, you look Kyle Brown, who's out of the running, but is well capable of scoring points on the local rally for him in the Cork 20. Dylan Sheena's there as well. He's the one who can catch Barry. There's 8 drivers there who have scored points this year, and not just ones and twos, decent points along the way. So obviously, the more of those that that do go to Cork, if they go, it could spread the points around a little bit, and it could shake up things a bit. So see how it goes. But it's definitely it's between Barry. If Barry gets through the event, he'll be fine. But as I said, the margin isn't enough there to kind of feel too comfortable about the whole thing either.
No.
I think judging by it, probably a top 4 place would probably do him. But as I said, if there's 8 guys there with points and they're all going to Cork, then who knows what might happen.
That's for sure. And overall, it has been a fascinating year. And of 2024 is having to go by. It's going to be really interesting come Galway 2025.
Yeah, it will be. I suppose unlike maybe a couple of years, it probably did taper a little bit towards the middle of the year because of maybe the pace of the top 2 and the fact that a lot of guys didn't finish early in the year, but definitely the pace has been as hot as any year. And I said hopefully that it will. You will look forward to February and see what people want to come out in, and as I said, if any Irish starts turning up on these shores, or even they said more Citroens or even more Skodas possibly, even though I think you said to me that they're hard got. But you never know who could rock up with what. That's always the beauty of Galway. No one ever knows what to expect when it comes to February. Somebody could come up with something completely out of the blue, and and I think that's part of the fun of it. Or if you've got some of the boys maybe that are already rallying overseas to come here, someone like Eamon Kelly, even just do a couple of rallies like that, or anyone like that, any of those boys, it'll be great to see. Like we were lucky to get William Crichton back here this year in West Cork, and show us how talented he is going to an R5 car. So I think it'll be interesting next year now again to see how many more guys will push forward and give it a go. As I said, after the guys don't have any plans maybe to do a championship, they'll register, and then the first 2 rounds go reasonably okay, they'll stick with it. But things that after the 3rd or 4th round, things go pear-shaped, then obviously they just pick and choose their events after that. And some years it just happens that everyone finishes the first 4 or 3 rounds or 4 rounds, and they'll keep going to the end. Whereas this year there probably was quite a few retirements at the very start of the year with some of the top boys, and it was harder to be motivated and to keep coming back. They just pick and choose their events after that.
Mm-hmm. So thanks very much there to Philip and Kevin, an absolute pleasure as always. Connor, that's it. We've quiet weekend this year. There's no action on the stages, and the ERC last weekend, John Armstrong and Owen Tracy set some fantastic times, but just unfortunately a double pointer put them out on the Saturday. It's a kind of probably of what could have been. They could have been on for a very strong top 10 finish, but unfortunately, just as I say, just clipping a corner and getting a double puncture and only one spare. Cruel sport at times.
Yeah, look, very, very cruel sport, and it was so unfortunate. And of the events, probably from road conditions, probably the closest to home, maybe for John as well as the type of changeable asphalt and changing grip. But as you say, came back on the Sunday and set stage times within the top 10 in every single stage. Like really good bounce back, but just unfortunate that the day before it was ruined for him.
Yeah, and like we've seen the pace of the Fiesta, and in here and in the UK, like it has to bode well coming to Carrot again. They have to be positive, and like that's a strong lineup of cars there. So in a couple of weeks' time, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's going to be a great event. It really is. Looking forward to the battle there, and a lovely mix of some of the top ERC guys, along with what the BRC has to offer as well. And
And
we're going to throw Callum Devine into the mix there for the
Mhm.
crack as well.
Yeah, we've got the ITRC. Like I know they're not, it's not championship, but a couple of our guys there, PRC and the ERC guys. Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. And then that's not even touching on the juniors. Like there's all our guys over from Ireland, the BRC, the ERC. That's going to be absolutely fascinating there as well.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a lovely combination. Should be on for some really great battles as well throughout the field, and we love that. The
Hmm.
competition just always isn't up at the top end; that it is mixed through the classes.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But that's all to come the next couple of weeks anyway. So until the next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.